Toronto. What the hell is this heat? I know I'm in a full suit right now, but this heat is not okay. I think it must be like 40 degrees or something right now. I have to sweat all the way home, but luckily I've got a good poker face, so I can just be sweating and just be like, when really I'm dying on the inside.
When I hopped, I wanted a milkshake, and there's extra, so he gave me the extra as well. Canada is just full of nice people. If this was London, they'd throw this away. I'm gonna do a taste test. Very nice. 10 out of 10.
The humidity, the air feels thick.
What the hell's going on, New Brunswick? Yesterday, snowfall. Day before, sleet and rain. Day before, millions of leaves to pick up. And today, boiling hot sun. This is the only place in the world where you need an umbrella, suntan lotion, bug spray, a heater, air conditioning, and a snow shovel all in one day.
I'll tell you something that surprised me about Canada. The size of the place. When I first got here, I was like, I'll spend some time in Toronto. Then I'll just make my way to Vancouver. Like it was a short drive away. I didn't even realize it was a whole different time zone when I first got here. What you mean I need to get a plane? My boys from back home were like, yeah, we'll visit you in Canada. And once we're done in Toronto, we'll head over to Alberta. And I was like, how are you going to get there? The guy said by train. I was like, wait, what? By train? Does it even go by train? But forgive us though. There's like 4 places Brits know before they even move here. Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Alberta. I think there's an assumption that they're all quite relatively close. Like the UK doesn't have different time zones. So bear with us Canadians, we're learning.
These are 5 things that sent me into a coma as a British person traveling in North America. Let's get cracking. 1. Toilets. The bathroom stalls are so high. I'm 4'7". Yes, I know I'm short. And the gaps underneath felt like they were up to my knees. I felt so exposed. Also, why is there so much water in the toilets? And when you flush, it's like being on an aeroplane with how aggressive the water gets sucked away. 2. The driving culture. When we were in LA, the speed limits felt more like suggestions, and people talked about distances in terms of walkability. And when you did see someone walking down the street, you genuinely wondered where they were going. 3. High consumerism. We would go into an average supermarket and it would have about 50 types of things for one item. You were sort of overwhelmed by choice. 4. Everything's filled to the top. In the UK, you open a packet of crisps and half of it is air. In North America though, everything is filled to the brim. I can't count how many shirts I had to dry in the first couple of days from the water bottles exploded on me the second I opened them. 5. Dispensaries. Not everywhere in North America allows it, but most places we went, herbal products were legal, if you know what I mean. It's a big change from the UK where it's not legal. In LA, I had a headache and I spotted a pharmacy style sign like they have in France. So I asked my brother to pop in and get some paracetamol for me. He came out looking really confused and explained that it was all just herbal products in there. And we quickly realized those pharmacy signs didn't always mean traditional types of pharmacies. It's quite funny to think back to how confused we were at the time.
No one warned me about this before moving to Canada. And low-key, it actually shocked me. Everyone told me about the mountains, the money, the lifestyle, but no one actually told me what actually catches you off guard moving here. Firstly is phone plans. Why am I paying this much to have data? It's 2026, not 2006. Second would be tipping. There's a big tipping culture here. You tip for food, coffees, taxis, haircuts, basically breathing. If you're British, this one hurts because we don't really tip in England that much. Thirdly is how friendly people are here. Strangers will just talk to you in lifts, in queues, in the street. At first I thought they wanted something, but it just turns out that they're being nice. Fourth is how big this place is. The roads, the shops, food portions. A medium here is a UK large, any restaurant. The biggest one for me is that they actually respect the workers here. Doesn't matter if you're in an office or on site, you're treated like an adult, like you should be. If you're British and thinking about Canada, it's...
You know those days where the weather says it's 22 degrees, but it just can't be 22 degrees, it's got to be like 45. Like, I hate to admit it, but I'm a sweater. I do sweat. And I know you're thinking, Abby, you look far too fucking beautiful to be sweating right now, but I'm sweating. I am sweating my tits off. Oh, but I've got a Coke in hand, so that could save the day and make me feel okay. The glow. I know some people think Toronto is cold, and don't get me wrong, I know it does get cold in the winter, but the summers it's bloody hot and humid, so I better get a fucking tan.
So one of my favorite culture shock confusion moments in Canada happened in uni. I have a friend good guy, white dude, but for his privacy, I'm gonna call him Jerome. So Jerome comes over to the place that I'm staying, yelling at the window, saying, yo, Mo, me and some of the boys are going to the park to play some soccer. Do you want to join? I'm like, oh, I'm hyped. I'm like, yeah, I want to do a block party. In fact, honestly, this studying has been killing me. And to be fair, I didn't know you Canadians even knew what soccer was. I'm down to party. I'll be down in a few minutes. I should have clocked the confused look on his face because he looked like he heard something that was wrong, but was just kind of like rolled with it and went with it. Few minutes go by, I come out the house wearing the wrong things for soccer, full stop. I have flip-flops on, I got jeans on, and I got one of my nice shirts on. He looks me up and down. Jerome just shrugs and goes with the flow. He's like, all right, whatever, we ball, let's go. So we go to the field, and I see nothing but bare mans, footballs, and nets. I'm like, dude, no soccer music is playing. Where's the party at? He looks at me like, when did I say we're going to have a party? We're here to play soccer. I'm like, soccer? Are you pronouncing this wrong? Like, soccer, the music, right? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's a football over there. That's a football. People are playing football over here. This is a physical activity and not the fun kind right now. And he's like, oh, dude, I get it, dude. The world calls it football, but we call it soccer. We call it soccer. I'm like, I thought only Americans did that. But like, you saw me come out of the house with flip-flops, jeans, and a shirt, and you thought I was going to play football over here. He says, he looks me dead in the eye and says, bro, every time I see videos of African kids playing football, they're doing it with no shoes on. I just thought that's how you guys be playing. I'm like, you're not wrong, but like, goddamn you. Like, fine, let me go.
We've been in Canada for 3 weeks now, and these are the main differences I've noticed between London and Vancouver. Pedestrians are the king of the road. Like, at home, pedestrians have no rights. If you're a car, you're going unless you're at a zebra crossing. But here, cars will literally wait for you to cross the road, even if you're trying to cross halfway through. It's like, when you're walking, you're king. It's so weird, and I'm kind of scared to drive because I feel like I'm going to have to learn that pedestrians rule. Secondly, everything is big, like the butter, the coffees. You order like a normal small takeaway coffee and it's huge. So the portions are just bigger. I know American portions are bigger before everyone in the comments comes for me, but the portions seem big here to me too. Food is eye-wateringly expensive in the supermarkets, but it literally makes no sense because in the restaurants, it's the same as in London. And I'm like, how are restaurants affording to buy their food from supermarkets, but then sell it for the same price as they do at home? Like, they must be making a much smaller markup. That does bring me on to tips. The tips here are crazy. Normally, minimum 18%. A cafe, at home, like, you don't tip. You don't tip in a cafe. You don't tip for anything takeaway. You would only tip if you had sat down in a restaurant. And normally you would tip like 10 to 12% is the going rate. It is wild out here. I just want to get people's opinion actually, because if I'm getting a takeaway coffee, why would I tip? Not in a rude way, but I'm not sat in there, I'm not being served. I wouldn't expect to be tipped if I was serving someone a takeaway coffee. So maybe that's a bit controversial, but I'd like to know what people's opinions are, because if I'm getting something to take away, why do I tip? This just seems a bit odd to me. Gardening is done everywhere. And if you watch TikTok and you know TikTok, you'll know what I mean by gardening. And if you don't, then don't worry about it. But gardening is done everywhere, and obviously that's not done at home. And I sat in a bar the other day and I was like, oh my God, someone is gardening in here. That is crazy. Wild. There's happy hours from 2 till 5 everywhere, and happy hours on food. At home, like, happy hours on food don't exist. So we went out for like tequila and tacos and margs the other night for like 50 quid. And we had so much food. It was great. And people on the whole are just so much friendlier. Like, someone came up to me in a cafe the other day and just started chatting to me because they were like, you freelance, that's so cool. I freelance too, let's chat. Like, yeah, people are friendly. People don't look like they hate their lives. In London, you go on the tube and you're like, these people, they hate their lives.
Okay guys, I've got a really strange one here. So like in the UK, when you're going into your bank, you'd walk in, go up to the cashier. Apparently, Canada has got rid of all that. So if you're antisocial, it's perfect. It's a drive-through bank. Yeah, you heard me. A drive-through bank. Something I've noticed when walking around my little town, so all the houses are different. In the UK, they're all just brick. and they all look the same. So guys, I found something else that's quite different to the UK. Letterboxes. You guys have these big letterboxes all together. So you have to actually drive or walk a little ways away to get your letters. And in England, the letters come straight through the door. We have actual letterboxes in the doors, and everyone in England gets their letters posted through the door. But here, you have these where everyone's are together, and I didn't realise that until I moved to Canada. And I don't know if they're the same across all of Canada, but in this little neighborhood, they're all like just randomly dotted around. It's so weird.
Things in a Canadian grocery store that would just confuse a Brit. You keep eggs in the fridge in England. All eggs in grocery stores, really, or supermarkets, are room temperature until you bring them home, and then you'd put them in your fridge. You sell this monstrosity. Ketchup chips. Like, I like ketchup, but I don't know about on chips. That's mad. All bacon's measured in cups here when we usually we weigh it out, grams and kilograms. I feel like you have way bigger plant-based sections. I can't find Warburtons. There's more of like a cake texture with the bread here. Your fruit sections are well better than ours though. And even how they designed it all on the wall looks sick.
And I didn't realise you can actually post your mail here and they'll take it.
Just moved from London, England to Vancouver, Canada, and the one thing I was not prepared for is the bears. Yes, I know there are bears in Canada, but Vancouver's a city. So I live in North Vancouver, which I know is slightly closer to the mountains, but I did not expect going for a walk and seeing posters at the bus stops saying that the bears are waking up from hibernation. You're not allowed to put your bins out till the morning that they're being collected because of bears. And there's a story of a guy on his morning walk with his cup of coffee in Vancouver last year that apparently hit a bear in the head with his coffee cup because he found it when going through the bin one morning. So naturally, I was terrified. So the one thing we were told to do was buy bear spray. Me and my partner love walking, we love hiking, and kind of now we know that bears are everywhere. We were like, we've got to search up what to do, we've got to get the bear spray. And this was something else I did not anticipate. I thought it was going to be like bug repellent, like a little can that you just like pepper spray that you put in your keyring. Wait till you see this. This is bear spray. It's the size of my head. It comes in a pouch you put on your hip because you've obviously got to have it within easy access at all time, just in case.
Get ready with me whilst I tell you some things that have shocked me as a Brit living in Canada. I feel like this one's pretty obvious, but it was still a big culture shock for me. But they don't add tax like in the shops until you get to the till. So like you just get a jump scare once you go to pay because they just add a shit ton more on. The next thing that shocked me is like how polite people are. Like, obviously I already knew like Canadians are like very stereotypically like polite and stuff. But the other day I was walking in the street and I was about to step in dog shit and someone went, whoa, hold on there. You're about to step in dog shit. Like in London, like no one would ever. And like in my building, like people that you don't know will say like hi and bye to you like as you get in and out of the lift. Like it's just very different here.
Perhaps we should begin with the weather, because this is almost always one of the first things many visitors from the UK mention when talking about Canada. Everyone knows that Canada is famous for being cold, but knowing it in advance is one thing. Actually, stepping into a Canadian winter is something else entirely. The cold here is not just a few chilly gusts of wind or a bit of snow to create a winter atmosphere. It can find its way into every part of daily life, from how you dress, get around, and drive, to how you plan an entire day. The weather seems to become an inseparable part of life in Canada. People check the forecast regularly and prepare winter coats, snow boots, gloves, and toques as essential items. But then, when summer arrives, everything changes almost completely. Many British visitors are surprised to discover that some parts of Canada can be much hotter than they had ever imagined. The summer heat sometimes makes them look at Canada in a different way, not merely as a land of white snow and long winter days. After the weather, the next thing that often catches people's attention is the distinctly Canadian friendliness. Quite a few British visitors are surprised to see strangers smiling at them on the street, striking up conversations naturally, or holding the door open for someone behind them, even when that person is still quite far away. Small gestures like these happen so often that, at first, many people cannot help feeling a little confused. It is the same on the bus, where passengers saying thank you to the driver as they get off is completely normal. For those who are not used to it, this can make them wonder whether everyone here already knows one another. Another detail that frequently becomes a topic of conversation is public washrooms. For many people from the UK, the noticeable gaps around stall doors in Canada can feel a little puzzling and even somewhat lacking in privacy. Back home, they are used to more enclosed partitions, so when they first see this type of design, many immediately bring it up as something both strange and amusing from their trip. Food also brings plenty of surprises. Portions at many restaurants in Canada are often larger than what British visitors expect. A meal can sometimes be enough for 2 people, or there may be leftovers to take home. In addition, many places offer free soft drink refills, which not everyone is used to. And newcomers quickly discover one very practical fact. The price listed on a shelf or menu is not always the final amount they have to pay, because sales tax is usually added at the checkout. Even going grocery shopping can leave visitors feeling confused. One well-known example is bagged milk in some parts of Ontario and Quebec. For locals, it is completely normal, but for many British visitors seeing it for the first time, the idea that milk is sold in plastic bags instead of bottles or cartons is truly hard to believe. It is a very small detail, but it is enough to remind people that they are in a country with habits of its own. Then, there is driving in traffic. Some British visitors say they are quite surprised by the way traffic works in certain Canadian cities, from the wide roads to the rules and habits on the road. Meanwhile, many others are impressed because drivers here seem more polite than what they are used to. Yielding, waiting patiently, or not being in too much of a rush can sometimes make the pace of life on the road feel more pleasant as well. Even queuing feels a little different. Canadians tend to keep a comfortable distance from one another. They do not push ahead, they do not stand too close, and most people calmly wait their turn. For many visitors, this is a small difference, but one that is very easy to notice. It helps create the impression that life here has its own rhythm, one that is gentler and somewhat more respectful of personal space. Finally, there are the differences in language. Canadian English sounds both familiar and unfamiliar to people from the UK. There are words, pronunciations, and everyday expressions that are easy to understand, yet still different enough to make you realize that you are no longer in Britain. A few phrases, names for everyday items, or the way people talk in daily life, can make visitors laugh or ask again just to be sure. When all of these experiences are brought together, from the stories of tourists to international students, from newcomers to long-time residents, you begin to understand why many people from the UK say that Canada is not simply a version of Britain on the other side of the Atlantic. Canada has its own pace of life, its own culture, its own habits, and many features that are distinctly its own. It is precisely these differences that make exploring Canada more interesting. Every small thing, from the weather, food, traffic, and manners to the language, contributes to a very unique picture of this country. And the more people experience it, the more they realize that Canada is memorable, not only because of its beautiful scenery or its vastness, but also because of the everyday details that surprise visitors, delight them, and sometimes stay in their memories for a long time. So everyone, I hope this article has given you more interesting and useful perspectives on Canada, especially through the impressions of visitors from the UK. If you found this content interesting and valuable, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you can continue accompanying our family. You can also turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next episodes. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, I will see you again in the next video. Keep watching, take care of your health, and I wish you lots of joy in life.